Yes, we are live. Good morning, everybody, and a big welcome to you all. Please tell us where you're joining us from. And before the moderator comes in full, thank you for being here before time. My name is Oditayo David Mayowa. I am the National Project Coordinator for DLC. And I want to say DL for all CDS. I want to say a big thank you to you all for making our time to be here. It's indeed a great privilege to have you here before the event started. I want to say a big thank you to you all and just tell us where you're joining us from. Today, we're going to be talking on a very, very important topic. And this time, we want to see how much we all have actually gone through and we are coping with the environment, with the economy, and how we can actually make the best out of it. And we're going to be having representatives from all the states that are going to be speaking to this timely topic. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a privilege to have you in our midst, and we are very grateful to also have you seated here and also ready to contribute to the national economy and to make the best and the best time out of your service here. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, we say big thank you for you all the DL for all CDS member got across the nation. We are proud of you, and we have no doubt that we are the best CDS in NYSC. Thank you once again for being here, and we say a big welcome. And without further ado, I'm going to be welcoming the moderator for today in person of Miss Victoria Alabi. Please, can we put our virtual hands together as we welcome her? But as she's coming up on stage, please don't forget, we want you to introduce yourself, tell us the state you're joining us from, and tell us what you're expecting to hear from your representative today, because the moderator is going to take us through the processes, and she's already ready, seated here. Please, can we put our hands together for the moderator? She happens to also be the national president for digital literacy for all. Please, can we put our hands together for her? Let's put our hands together for her, our virtual hands together for her. Right, over to you.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Mayowa Odetayo. Good morning, esteemed core members and distinguished representatives. It's with great honor that I, Alabi Victoria, National President, welcome you to the National CDS webinar, a special session dedicated to the review of coping mechanism by Mr. Tayo Oloshode, the visionary CEO of MindtheGap. Today we gather to explore a book that speaks directly to our journey as core members, equipping us with tools to navigate challenges, build resilience, and make a lasting impact in our communities. Coping mechanisms offers practical insight on emotional strengths and adaptive strategies, aligning perfectly to the goal of the Community Development Service (CDS) to empower us to be change makers in Nigeria. We are privileged to delve into this work of Mr. Tayo Oloshunde, whose leadership at Mind the Gap has transformed life. This webinar promises to be engaging, reflective, and inspirate and to inspire us. I encourage you all to participate fully. Thank you so much. So right now, we'll be taking the national anthem. Let's all be upstanding. Okay, let's stand up. Nigeria, we are our their native land. Though tribes and tongue may differ, in brotherhood we stand. Nigerians all are proud to serve our sovereign motherland. Let's have our seats, everyone. Thank you so much. So right now, I'm going to make a so right now we are going to have a brief intro to what our webinar is today. So, coping mechanism is a book by Mr. Tayo Oloshunde, just like I said earlier, and is a guide to managing stress, mental health, and living intentionally. We have representatives from different states that will be taking us through the chapters of this book. We are going to be having Blessing from Oyo State. She'll be reviewing the chapter one of this book to us. Blessing, you are welcome.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for the opportunity to review this very great book. I When I spoke with my president about the book, he also pointed out that the book was excellently written and it was really a great book. So here's my review on Coping Mechanism by Dr. Tayo. First, I noted that not all burdens are physical, some are emotional, mental, or even spiritual. And I think this even speaks to me as a person. When you talk about burden, especially as a young person, it's not only physical, it's not only about going to work or having to do strenuous exercises and all of that. It's also emotional, it's also mental, and can even be spiritual. And the weight of grief, not just from losing a person, but from losing a version of yourself that once existed, or a version you've imagined but still doesn't exist yet. So sometimes this burden doesn't even come from you even losing just yourself. It comes from you losing even the version of you that has not even yet existed, or the ones that you imagine would yet exist. Also, I noted that for many, especially in environments where vulnerability is seen as weakness, coping means pretending. Like in this part of the world, Nigeria, there's always this saying of, oh, everybody has a burden, everybody has something they are going through, to just manage and just keep going no matter what you are going through. So for environments like this, vulnerability is seen as weakness, and coping means pretending. Now, over time, this pretense becomes performance, and this performance becomes your personality. Personally, I can say that that has become like my own personal experience right now. So you have to like, I have to pretend, just let me just do it, let me just get through this, and over time I noticed that that becomes my performance, and this has become my personality. And then somewhere along the line, we all find ourselves in some kind of battles, and not always the kind with noise and chaos. Sometimes the battle is just trying to get out of bed or trying to stay hopeful, and when everything seems uncertain, or trying to be strong for others even when you feel like breaking down too. In psychology, there's something called the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response. I can say that for majority of us, especially me and my friends, we've experienced it. Sometimes it does not even come from making destiny decisions, right, or making big decisions like that. Sometimes it even comes from just getting out of bed, or just trying to stay hopeful irrespective of the situation that one finds his or herself in. And also, you may not be able to control everything that comes your way, but you can choose how you carry it. You can choose what you let stay in your heart, and you can learn to cope in ways that build you and not break you. Now, some flee from relationships, some flee from responsibilities, some flee from anything that feels too hard. And I think that this is many people can really relate to this, especially young people. Many of them can really relate to this. Personally, I think I can relate to this too. Most times when it just gets overwhelming, I just tend to flee from relationship, responsibilities, anything that just feels too hard. right? And the fawn response is where we now become people pleasers. We abandon our own needs and just try to keep the peace to feel worthy or to avoid rejection. Also, this is very, 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 very relatable. Now, um, I also noted that strength is not how much you can ignore, it is how honest you are willing to be. Sometimes strength does not necessarily mean you ignoring your feelings, ignoring your emotions, or all of that. Sometimes it's about how honest you can be about talking about it, talking about the way you feel, and all of that. And that is strength. Also, we can interpret this as the ability to speak out and not. So, vulnerability can we can also interpret vulnerability as the ability to try to speak out and not take everything in as a form of pretense. I also noted that you are not your trauma, you are not your failure, and you are not the weight that you carry. And like the pressure of being the first child in a struggling family, carrying the hopes, the fears, and the needs of everyone else while pretending you are fine. And I think this is very, very, very relatable. I came across a thread on Twitter that really spoke about this, and a lot of people could relate to this, especially when you're the firstborn in the struggling family. I mean, the weight really becomes choking, and at the point you just feel like you are not yourself. So it's worthy to note that you are not your trauma, you are not your failure, and you are not the weight that you carry. Now, there's nothing noble about emotional neglect. There's nothing holy about being constantly overwhelmed. Rest is not rebellion. Honesty is not weakness. And so, most people try to say, "Oh, it's when you are able to neglect your emotions that you are strong or anything." No, it really isn't. And you are not failing just because you are still figuring things out. I think this really struck a nerve for me. I mean, when I came to that part of the book, I was like, damn, okay, this man is targeting me. He's really looking out for me, and that really struck a nerve for me. And the final part of the book, of the chapter one, said, I hope it reminds you that you are not alone, that the weight you feel is real, but it is not final, and that your coping mechanism has served you, but they don't have to define you. And so the journey ahead is not about escaping pressure, it's about learning how to live well even when you are on diet. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Blessing. Blessing has talked about the weight we carry, not in a way that judges or diagnoses, but in a way that gives language to what you've been feeling but couldn't quite explain. The unseen load, when life becomes a battlefield, pressure is not always loud, the ways we cope. So let this be your permission slip. You don't have to keep carrying everything alone. You don't have to pretend you are okay. You don't have to stay numb. You don't have to feel ashamed for the way you've survived. But you do
Yes.
owe it to yourself to learn a better way forward. Thank you so
Yes.
much, Blessing, for your
Thank you.
time. We really
Thank you.
appreciate you. And thanks for your contribution to this book review.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Blessing. Please, let's give a round of applause. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying true. And I believe we've learned one or two things. Whatsoever thing you've learned, your key nuggets, let's drop it in the comment section. Thank you. So moving forward, we'll be having the representative from Osun State, Faithful. Faithful. Faithful is going to be taking us through the chapter 2 of this book, Coping Mechanism by Mr. Tayo Oloshunde. You're welcome, Faithful.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So, my review is on the chapter Understanding Fight, Flight, Freeze, and Fawn. I would start by saying this: you are not broken, you are responding. But with awareness and healing, you can choose to respond differently. Stress and trauma, as we know, these two are deep and we go through them at most parts of our lives. Chapter 2 provides us with a profound, compassionate view about the deepest seated reactions towards them, how we do handle stress and how we do handle trauma, what we do, and how we do them when we come face to face with these two giants. I will start first of all by defining what stress and trauma is. Now, stress, according to the book, points towards the response of various emotional and rational pressure of life, everyday life challenges, which triggers the body instinct survival and the response. Now, at one point in time of our life, we are faced with different things that manage to make us either want to fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. For example, having to chop breakfast from your partner or from your ex or whatever it is, having to be denied, or the constant need to be pushing further in unstable environments as it is. These particular things manage to put stress into our lives and make stress a vivid view as it is. Trauma, on the other hand, points towards unresolved past pain or deeply impactful experiences that leave deep marks or scars that wouldn't go away. This one particularly is caused by long-term coping patterns, childhood experiences, betrayal, even loss of loved ones are situations that make one react from a place of past pain instead of present reality. Now, there are points in which this particular chapter managed to be insightful to us. And we'll say, for one, the summary of everything is when the heart learns to hide. Now, first of all, I would like to point out the fact that Mr. Tayo managed to make us understand that the four F's, as I call it, the flight, fight, freeze, and fawn, are not signs of weaknesses. Rather, they are actually signs of intelligence because these particular features are what we know as ways in which the brain adapts to emotional threats. Understanding that these four F's of intelligence will create a space for self compassion and prevent us from self judgment while embracing understanding of our growth and development as we move forward in life. The second one is the bridge between coping and healing. These two are different. We should always have it in our mind as it is, even though we have some people who go through coping and they call it healing. Coping mechanisms are presented as bridges built to survive painful seasons. However, they are not permanent homes, which means they are not places where we have to remain there for as long as forever because these things, they don't last. The coping mechanisms that we manage to hold on to, they don't last and could most of the times destroy our lives as we try to grow. And it leaves such persons with old habits and patterns that they are not meant to be living in. The one goal is to place in mind that we have to make sure that we recognize the bridges and ask if it is actually serving us or it is leaving us in a cage that we managed to build so as to probably keep us safe or probably to keep us from having to be hurt again by what these particular experiences we managed to go through. And the final one is integrating faith and emotional health. This one points towards readers of faith as it is. The chapter helps us to understand that the wrongs of having to mislabel trauma as spiritual maturity or lack of faith is getting out of hand. So Mr. Olashunde Tayo encourages readers to embrace a holistic view where prayer and faith are combined with self-awareness and therapy and not having to label trauma trauma and stress as lack of faith or spiritual maturity as it is. I would like to conclude on the facts, on the review of this particular chapter, saying ultimately it serves as a painful reminder, a powerful reminder. That our emotional response are not our identity. By understanding the four F's, which is the flight, fight, freeze, and fawn, we are given the gift of awareness, which is the first step towards moving beyond mere survival and beginning the journey towards true healing and wholeness. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Faithful. Faithful, thank you so much, Faithful, from Ocean State. Faithful, he took us through the making of a coping pattern, the four phases of survival, the fight, the flight, the freeze, and the fawn. Our responses are not our identity. It is vital to pause here and remember how you cope is not who you are. And moving towards wholeness, real growth begins when you recognize the weight you've been carrying and how you've been carrying it. Maybe you've been fighting your way through life, or running, or freezing in a place, or fawning to stay accepted. It's okay. That was survivor. But this next chapter of your life doesn't have to be about just surviving. It can be about living more freely, loving more authentically, coping more consciously, because you deserve not to only survive, but to be whole and sane. Thank you so much, Faithful, for joining us on this beautiful ride. Book review, Coping Mechanisms by Mr. Tayo Oloshode. The next person we'll be having on board is Daniel from Benue State. You are welcome, Daniel from Benue State. Okay, Daniel is not here yet. So let's move to Monday Oba from Nasarawa State. Okay, I guess they have network glitches. Okay, let's have Simile Oluwa Akindele from Lagos State. You're welcome, Simile Oluwa Akindele.
I'm representing Lagos State. And yeah, the interesting chapter that was allocated to me was chapter 6. So far, so good. Everyone has spoken a bit about coping mechanism. But really, there is more to coping mechanism than just this book review. If you would agree with me, it's something that we could talk about for days, for weeks, and still would not be able to expand it. Now, coping mechanism is something that, yeah, we do hear about it. We have sessions about it. Someone say, "Oh, how are you coping?" It's like an everyday word, but really, do we take time to reflect on it? Like, what exactly would we call our own coping mechanism? Now, this chapter 6 is talking about coping mechanism and health. These two words are not new words, but the meaning of these words are what we don't take too much time to dwell on. Now, when we talk about coping mechanism and health, it's bringing in two different aspects. Coping mechanism as in your mental way of doing things, and your health. And this aspect, we're talking about physical health to an extent. Now, when we look at these two things, we tend to like, does it correlate? There's this silent conversation that comes between our mind and our body. And sometimes we don't even really sit down to listen to it. We just move on. Oh, I'm tired. We move on. This is happening. We just go on like that. But this chapter is going to discuss about coping mechanism and our health. Health is important when you need to cope. Whatever mechanism you are using to cope, else needs to be considered. And one interesting thing about this book is the way the writer segregated each aspect. There are like about 10 of these subtopics under this chapter. And hopefully with time we can still go through it. But if not, I would recommend you go through this book on your own. One of these was when coping becomes a threat. Yeah, you are coping. But really, the way you are coping is an healthy way of coping. Hope you are not doing it as a threat to your body. Sometimes when you say you are coping, sometimes it could be emotional withdrawal. That's your own way of coping. You just detach yourself from people. It's something that happens a lot to me. When I feel so overwhelmed, maybe I have a lot of chores to do at home, or maybe in the office, and there's just so much to do. I just want to, people call it locking. But really, that locking in, we all have a definition of locking in. It could just be that you don't just want to talk to anybody. Even sometimes, you might even go on hunger strike. Or you might not even just find time to just sit, relax, get your to do. Okay, what do I need to do? What's the order of priority? And then we just go. Sometimes it could be emotional withdrawal, it could be avoidance, it could just be chronic busyness. That's when you just find one or two things to do, just be doing, just to do. And sometimes busyness does not always mean that you are being productive. No. Sometimes there are things that you should have set in order priority. You're not doing that. And you just feel like, oh, I'm busy. At the end of the day, what did you achieve for the day? You might not be able to show forth something tangible you achieved. So that's that about when coping becomes a threat. So you have to be careful. What exactly are you using to cope? Hope it's not a threat to your health. It's not a threat to your mental well-being. Hope it's not that it's at that point you think that a smoke is what you need. Hope it's not at that point you think that much more caffeine is what you need. Remember, all of these things have their side effects. And we must always be sure to ensure that we're using the right channel to cope. Now, another thing we need to consider in this chapter is the body remembers what the mind tries to forget. You might think that, because you're going through it, maybe you had a difficult situation or a difficult conversation. Yeah, you had that conversation with that colleague. And to you, rather than addressing that issue right at that point in time, you decided to like, that's his problem, Jerry. And you think you've forgotten about it in your mind. But really, your body is trying to accumulate all of that thing. It never forgets. You might think that, temporarily you've taken your mind off it. But your body just feel like, that's why sometimes you just feel like, I feel so tired. And when you look at it and you're like, what have I even done for today? Really, you might not have done a lot. You might not have done something that was physically strenuous. But yet your body feels so tired. It's because right in your mind, there's a lot that has been compounding. You've been suppressing things for so long. And then your body has started to like tell you, guy, you've locked me up here for too long. And then it starts to emit stench that seems like, how are you going to deal with this? That is why even though the mind tries to forget, it does not forget though, but it might try to make your mind forget, but you cannot control your body to forget. And that's when it sometimes it turns out to be burnout. You just feel weak, you just feel tired. And these are things we need to consider in our day-to-day life. Now, healing begins when we stop hiding what hurts. That feels so much like it's really got to me. It's healing begins when you stop hiding what hurts. So it's not about shying away from that situation. It's not about trying to hide it, trying to manage it, trying to just put it aside. No, let's not stop hiding. Let's be clear about communication is very key when you need to cope. Another thing he mentioned was healthy coping, your body's best medicine. See, I don't know how else you want to cope without bringing your body care into it. It could just be like you just taking that moment of silence. Just, some people call it meditation. You just close your eyes. It could be a very busy day at work. 5 minutes does not hurt anyone. It could be a bathroom break. You could just go into the bathroom, try to calm your mind, and that's just it. Like, healthy coping is your body's best medicine, the best you can do for your body. You're not only concerned about your mind when you're trying to cope with stress, with anything it is. Your body has to be involved. And that sometimes it could just be you taking a walk. It could just be a word of prayer. It could just be you taking a book to read. It doesn't have to be a long thing. Just something that you have to do at that moment when you know that you're in need of it. Another thing is the link between mental health and physical well-being. Like I said before, there is a link between your mental health and your physical well-being. Don't just think that what you're going through is a mental situation. No, it also affects your body. So that's why it is key that you are mindful of how you take care of your body. Another way of coping mechanism is employing the use of spirituality, silence, and soul healing. See, a lot of people have their different definition of spirituality. It could just be singing songs. There are times when you feel so tired and of different religion, we have songs that uplift us in that moment. So if it's spirituality that helps you, prayer, if that's what helps you, if it's meditation, if it's worship, if that's what helps you at that moment in time, those ones would never have that bad side effects that maybe resulting to junks would do. Some people cope by resorting to junks. Some people cope by oversleeping. Some people cope by aggressive behavior. But really, if you could just those moments of silence, soul healing, then you will find out that your coping mechanism can also be an healthy way of keeping your body together. So become the healer you are waiting for. To cope well, you must ensure that you're doing your body good also. Don't cope at the neglect of your body's well-being. I'm guessing my time is up, but really, it's really a nice book to read, and I really hope that you can go through it and you will find out there's a lot to learn that can help you with your day-to-day living. Thank you very much for having me. My name is Simulu Akindele.
Thank you so much, Similiolua from Lagos State. She said a lot, like a whole lot. There is a silent conversation between the mind and the body that many of us don't pay attention to until something goes wrong. It's that thing that tightens the chest when you are overwhelmed, the persistent headaches that refuses to go, the sudden weight changes, and even feeling numbness in the middle of a loud word. So the truth is, your health is not isolated from your emotions. Your body listens. It always has. And sometimes it screams what your lips are too afraid to say. So coping also happens on the dining table. So after this webinar, I want us all to go and eat and forget our stress, forget
Very important.
any issues. Go and eat. Yes. Coping also. Above all, we all are trying to cope, right? Good. Let all of us let us cope on the dining table. Nita should find a way for us to, eat something. Mr. Tayalo Shunde, Mr. Mayowa, they should get us something at least to cope. Thursday coping mechanism is food. We are using food to cope today. So thank you so much, Semili Olua. Please, call members, I want to advise us. Your health is not an afterthought. Please. Thank you so much. So now we'll be having Dominion Williams from Ogun State. He'll be taking us through the chapter 5 of coping mechanisms by Mr. Tayo Oloshunde. You are welcome, Dominion Williams
Good
from Ogun
morning.
State.
Morning, everyone. My name is Dominion. I'm representing Ogun State. And so I will be taking chapter 5 of coping mechanisms. All right. So what I learned from chapter 5, basically, what it can be summarized is when coping meets connection. You see, when we step into a relationship, whether romantic, friendship, family, or even in a work team, we are never just ourselves. We bring our childhoods, our joys, our fears, our traumas, and most importantly, our coping mechanisms. These shape how we speak, withdraw, fight, cling, forgive, or walk away. The truth is, love alone is never enough. And in leadership, respect alone is never enough either. How we cope decides whether our connections thrive or collapse. And one thing I love about this chapter of the book is that it can easily apply to those of us who serve as executives in this CDS. Let me tell you what I mean. Number one, coping isn't always a choice. We often think coping is a deliberate choice, but it's mostly automatic, shaped by what worked for us in the past, not necessarily what is healthy. Maybe you shut down because speaking up was unsafe as a child. Maybe you people please to avoid rejection. Maybe you avoid deep talks because vulnerability feels like weakness. These habits don't make you bad, they make you human. But unchecked, they can quietly damage relationships, teams, and trust. Number two, the four coping styles in relationships and leadership. Of course, these include the fight, which includes becoming, as a leader, for example, becoming overly critical or controlling when under stress. Flight, avoiding tough conversations or disappearing when there is conflict. Freeze, which is being indecisive or shutting down in moments your team needs clarity. Fawn, over accommodating at the cost of your own values or your team standards. Knowing your style is the first step to becoming a healthy leader. Communication and coping clashes is also an aspect of this book which I really love. And of course, most conflicts, even in CDS work, they aren't about capability, but they're about coping clashes. One person wants to talk it out, while the other one needs silence. Without awareness, both misinterpret each other. One would think, oh, this one is too aggressive. The other one would think, oh, this one doesn't care. So we need that understanding to work well with each other, even in the team and as a leader. But with awareness, you approach situations as partners, not opponents, even under pressure. One other aspect of this chapter, which I love, is the aspect of self-soothing, and which is the game changer for most leaders. This chapter's core lesson is self-soothing, regulating your emotions without offloading them onto others. In leadership, this means not snapping at members when plans change, staying calm when turnout is low, responding thoughtfully instead of reactively in heated discussions, choosing healthy relationships in leadership. You see, not all connections are healthy, even as a CDS. Some dynamics drain progress, others build it. As a leader, we have to choose relationships that respect boundaries and roles, allow space for feedback without fear, support growth instead of reinforcing dysfunction. And my key takeaways as a leader include the following. Awareness of your coping style makes you a steadier leader. Love or respect without healthy coping is unstable. Boundaries keep the team functional, not distant. Self-soothing keeps your decision-making clear under stress. And healing your own patterns sets the tone for a healthy team structure. And so my final thoughts, the way you cope is the way you lead. Until you choose to heal, and when you heal, leadership stops being survival and becomes influence. This chapter isn't just about romantic relationship or even just friendship. It's about every space where humans connect. Of course, that includes leadership. And as a CDS executive, it challenges me to notice my own patterns, communicate with awareness, and lead from a place of emotional stability. Because when a leader's coping is healthy, the whole team feels safer, heard, and empowered to give their very best. That's all from me. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much, Dominion Williams from Ogun State. Coping isn't always conscious. Before we go deeper, and please, I want us all to remind ourselves that coping isn't always a decision, it's often a reflex, a strategy we picked up from trauma or in our childhood days, not because it was LD, but because it actually worked for us. And in the end of everything, LD relationships aren't built on perfection, but on mutual presence, on honesty, on growing together, not around our coping, but through it. And perhaps the most important relationship we'll ever tend to is the one we have with ourselves. Because we have learned to be self-soothed, we should stop needing others to rescue us and start choosing love from a place of wholeness and not fear. Thank you so much, Dominion Williams from Ogun State. You
Thank
are
you.
oh my God. Well, Thank you. Actually, I picked one thing from what you said. You said allow space for feedbacks. Please don't let us take feedbacks personal. It is actually to help us grow and also help us be more self-aware and conscious. Thank you so much, Dominion Williams, for joining us on this book review. We sincerely appreciate you. So next person coming on board. Hi, bye. Next person coming on board is Oba Monday from Nasarawa State. You're welcome, Oba.
Eh, Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you, everyone. Good morning once again. My name is Oba Monde Oloche with State Code NO25824. I'm representing Nasarawa State. Earlier this week, we celebrated International Youth Day, which is a global reminder that young people are not just the leaders of tomorrow, we are leaders today. One of the strongest platforms we have to shape Nigeria's future is NYSC, which is the largest youth scheme in the country, mobilizing thousands of graduates each year to serve and transform communities. Let me tell you a short story on how the CDS has shaped my life personally. When I arrived at the NYSC orientation camp, I collected an introductory letter from our schedule officer. After collecting the introductory letter, I submitted it during documentation and I was officially the part of DL for All. The reason why I joined DL for is because it closely aligns with my passion, which is empowering people with digital literacy. Now, the reason why I'm giving my own story is because I want to see a way I can actually relate it with the book, which we are using as reference. Now, recently, I read Coping Mechanism by Tayo Olusunde, which is the CEO and the founder of MindtheGap. And immediately, I saw how his lessons connect to the work we do in this CDS. The book begins with a vision of Nigeria in 2027, where young people are engaged, technology is embraced, and communities are thriving. It contrasts that the future with the reality of today, where so many of us carry heavy burdens, financial responsibilities, financial struggle, unspoken expectation, and the constant pressure to appear fine on the outside. As the author says, coping is not a flaw, it's a form of survival. Even if no one sees your fight, every breath you take in the storm is proof that you are choosing life. That line stayed with me because it is true for every single person here. We all cope in different ways. Some fight and push through, some run away from challenges, some freeze and do nothing, and some pleases others to avoid conflict. In Nigeria, many of us cope by simply saying it go better, while quietly enduring difficulties. But what if coping could be more than just enduring? What if coping could also be a way of preparing ourselves and our communities for a better future? This is where DL for All comes in and makes a difference. When we go to communities to teach informal sectors, we are giving them hope. We are showing them that they have options and we are equipping them to create solutions for themselves and their communities. The government understands the importance of this. That is why it is using NYSC to spread digital empowerment. When when a young person learns to cope not by hiding from challenges, but by creating opportunities through technology, it transforms their life and the lives of others around them. For me, this is not just about posting, it's a mission. I have been actively involved from day one, and I will continue to contribute through upcoming projects. My goal is to be part of building in Nigeria where young people have both resilience and survive and the tools to thrive. As coping mechanism reminds us, the journey ahead is not about escaping pressure. It's about learning how to live well, even under it. That is exactly what we are doing, helping people live well, cope better, contribute meaningful to our country's growth. On this note, I encourage us all to cope not by shrinking back, but by stepping forward with our skills, passion, and commitment to building a better Nigeria. Coping may keep us alive, but empowerment will help us thrive. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Oba. Oba has taken us through the coping mechanisms and religion. There are a few things as personal as pain, and even fewer things as personal as belief. When life presses hard against the soul, many people reach out for divine or for something greater than themselves. So, for centuries now, religion has not only given people a sense of identity and moral compass, but also served as one of humanity's most enduring coping mechanisms. We must have heard of people saying, "Oh, anytime I'm feeling down, I think I just need to like go to my church, go to a mosque, go to wherever and we have people we can worship together or talk." Despite that fact, that thing does not take what we are passing through or going through at that moment. It doesn't take it away from us. But for that period, just for us to cope, let's just go. Let's lift up holy hands and let's just forget about that pain. Let's numb it for a while. So let's journey through our religion intercepts with our need to cope and how faith communities, beliefs, and spiritual practices shape the way people endure suffering, manage anxiety, and recover from trauma and navigate loss. Thank you so much, Oba, for having us. Thank you so much for joining us on this book review. Oba has spoken about the chapter 8 of this review, and coming up stage, I'll be bringing the representative from Ebonyi State. Ebonyi State. So that's chapter 10 of the book. You are welcome, Oladapo Eitayo from Ebonyi State.
Opportunity. So I would be taking anchoring in chapter 10, which is titled "What You Have is the Abridged Free Version." Now, the focus of this chapter is that it focuses on the way we manage and adapt to stress, the strategies that we take to manage stress, especially when life gets overwhelming. Please, can we hear me? Can we hear me, please? Um, Okay, everyone can hear me. Thank you very much. So we started with a phrase: "You can't shortcut your way to wholeness. Healing isn't a highlight reel; it's a full-length journey. What you've been calling progress might just be a preview. Don't settle for the abridged version of the story when the full one deserves to be lived." So it is somehow normal nowadays that we tend to look for a quick way out. It's under one subtitle here, but I just want to do a brief running. So we tend to always want the shortcut, whereas healing or wholeness was particularly used in this chapter. Wholeness takes time, takes patience, and consistent effort. You cannot just skip the hard part and expect that you will heal. You have to just go through that phase. So what you have is the abridged free version, a way people tend to always cope is by doing it the short way. An abridged free version of the situation is a shorter or a more precise way, living the truth and the original way. So there were few subtopics there. The first one is the definition of quick fixes. It has to do with how we tend to want to make use of quick relief, as in quick relief, quick responses. They become our go-to action when in emotional or physical pain. But normally, and our response, like I said, to tough challenges is finding a quick way out, which normally doesn't end well. The writer noted that coping isn't cute, it is gritty, it is tough, but then the end thereof is good. So, in as much as coping tends to be hard, it is something that would be very beneficial to us once we go by it. The second subtopic is the illusion of arrival. So, it is a response system whereby when one goes through something, they always have this arrival mentality. He said that after doing a few things, journaling, a couple therapy sessions, meditation, prayer, you'll be fixed, sorted, transformed, in a way that we'll just plan our life to keep ourselves busy. Mostly when we go through something bad or when we go through something that we are we are finding hard to cope. People always have this detailed plan, you know. Some would say they would watch K drama, some would say they would write, just to keep their minds clouded and then give them this, okay, since they've done, they feel like it would work out. But then Mr. Tayo said there is no arrival, just deeper awareness, new layers of understanding, and greater strength to sit with your truth. So, illusion of arrival tends to be when we don't want to face the truth. So, the pain eventually seeps in later on. It's just like someone who is going through depression and says Okay, all he has to do is go to the bar, drink, smoke, whatsoever. And then, the funniest thing is that after the effect of that particular thing has worn off, the pain eventually begins to seep in. That particular thought that you were trying to push away begins to come back, because that was not meant to be the solution. It was never a solution. It was just a means to an end. So moving forward, because of time, the next subtopic there is the cost of shallow coping. Now, shallow, from the word shallow, it means that it is not deep coping as it should be. It is more of like a surface level coping. How that people tend to want to, he said here, it creates a generation of emotionally starved individuals who can say all the right things, self-care, boundaries, inner child, but have no idea how to practice them. Said it's like reading the summary of a book and claiming you've read the story. You miss the plot, you skip the pain and the redemption, you miss the power in the details. Now, real coping takes time. That was one thing that he ranked throughout chapter 10. Real coping takes time. It asks questions no one quotes can answer. Like, what are you avoiding by staying busy? What part of your past still controls your reaction? Many questions that at that point in time you don't want to answer, because it will give you a memory, it will take you down a memory lane of that particular thing that you are trying to avoid. Um, Thank you. So the next topic, give yourself the full version. So I summarize, give yourself the full version by just saying that we need to take a breather. For us to fully heal and grow, we need to choose the truth. We need to choose therapy. We need to sit with the pain, because as we all know, it is the truth that sets us free. So if we don't face the truth, if we bottle it up, most times the end effect is bad. So choosing the truth always is a way that we give ourselves the full version and we live an unabridged life. Don't settle for the preview. Yeah, so for this one, I I came across a picture this morning while trying to prepare. I tried to see if we could share our screen, but I can't. So I would close my video now. If you can zoom in carefully to the avatar. I see the picture as the avatar I used. You would see a particular lady. She is in front of her phone and in front of a mirror. So most times we tend to want to see what social media we tend to want to use social media as a way to bottle the pain, but we see here that in real life she's down looking at her mirror, but in front of her phone she's after the likes. And then these things, they are not permanent, they are just temporary. What happens when you drop your phone? What happens when your phone goes off, and then the social media, the people that are hailing you up and down, that you are like, okay, this and that, then what if they're not there? So you eventually fall back. So even if we try to use these means to always want else to forget the pain, there are still areas, there are still measures. If truly we have been to talk with ourselves, we will still remember them. And healing deserves more time and attention. One thing I picked from is that your story deserves to be fully lived and fully told and not summarized. And there's something I always tell people too. I said the fact that you are still alive after going through what you've gone through is that you would be the one who would be an escape, like a way out for someone who might be going through something similar or related in the nearest future. So as I am rounding off, we have second to last subheading, the fear of digging deep. Now, it says we cling to the short version of our story because it feels safer. If we don't go deep, we don't have to face the wounds, the fears, or the truth that we've buried. But what's buried doesn't die. It leaks into our relationship, into our anger, into our reality. It even allows us to be unable to trust. So the real coping means turning to the light, looking that monster in the eye, facing it and watching it shrink down. Because eventually, in the truth, we are set free. So in the presence of truth, love, and courage. So coping is more of like a bold step. And if we are not bold to take that step, we would have issues. So as I summarize, I noted here that we should not forget the journey will be uncomfortable, and that's okay because Rome wasn't built in a day. Let's remember that coping keeps us afloat, but healing teaches us how to swim, and the choice to heal is the choice to live fully. So I'm encouraging us, just like Mr. Tayo, that we should live a real, full, unabridged life. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you. So, before we move on, there is a note for the tired one in the book we are reviewing, Coping Mechanism by Mr. Tayo Oloshinde. And I'm going to read this out. If you are tired of starting over, if you've tried every app, every tip, every prayer, and every quote, if you feel like nothing is working fast enough, you are not broken. You are not doing it wrong. You are just trying to use tools meant for maintenance on wounds that need surgery. And healing takes time. You are not behind, you are becoming. Let go of the timeline and embrace the transformation. If you are coping in silence, thinking no one understands, please know this. Someone else has walked through the darkness you are facing, and they didn't just survive, they healed so that you can. A real, full, unabridged life. There is something only about living your full story. Now the Instagram version, not the Instagram version, not the clean up version, the full bodied truth of your life. The version where you acknowledge what hurt you, you forgive what tried to destroy you, you own what you didn't get, you grieve what never was, and you celebrate the beauty that comes from ashes. That was that's what's real coping. That's what real coping leads to, not perfection, but peace. Not constant happiness, but clarity. Not a highlight reel, but a all grounded and meaningful life. And the full version of you, the one who doesn't even just know the words, but believe the healing is worth waiting for. Thank you so much. Oh my God. You don't want to miss out. Please try as much as possible. Reach out to me, reach out to your president after this meeting to get this book. You really need it. Thank you so much. So, coming up next, we have Precious from Kwara State. You're welcome, Precious.
Thank you, Ma. Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? Am I
Loud
muted?
and clear.
Yes, Ma. Thank you so much for this opportunity to do this book review. My name is Precious, and I'm representing Kwara State. Now, I'll be doing a book review on Chapter 7, Coping Mechanism and Career. I think we can all relate to the fact that most of the time we spend our life trying to go for a career, trying to go for certain jobs that which becomes at a point our identity. It becomes something that we are known for. It becomes the mark of success that we can point that, oh, I'm doing this and I'm successful in it. And many people do not actually look at the fact that this career, which gives people the sense of identity, this same career, which gives people income, which gives people influence, is also the source of stress, the source of pressure, the source of burnout and fatigue that we experience sometimes. To be honest, when I was trying to sorry my voice, when I was trying to break down this chapter, it was not easy because of the load of knowledge that Mr. Tayo had written there. It's a very awesome book. And coping with career demands isn't just about time or managing time or delivering output. It's not about saying you had a successful career. It's not about just saying you had income or you were rich during your time of service as a particular job. We tend to forget that when we are working in something, when we have a job, we also need to manage ourselves. Everyone had experienced, we all have different career experiences where it demands some form of coping, from entrepreneurs to a fresh graduate like ourselves, with wanting to put together what to do after this service year. It demands a sense of coping in one way or the other. Productivity, like the rise and grind, the constant thought of what to do, how do I deliver output. We get to strain ourselves. I can literally feel it in my in my bones and in my mind that what do I do after this service, and it's just getting to me. But I thank God I came across this book because it's so timely. So in this chapter of this book, see that many people aren't thriving in their work. Many people are just surviving there. If we should do a census of to people in different workplaces, are you really enjoying your job? Are you really thriving in your maximum capacity? We'll see that many people will not really reach the pass mark because they are just surviving there and they are not really enjoying what they are doing because of the career demands that we face, because of the workloads, because of the constant mark to finish well, because of the constant rise and grind, not no rest at all. You see that many workers are putting a marks of smiles on their faces, but within them, there are really in pain. There are many people are depressed because they are not really in an environment that they love. They are not in an environment that they are thriving well. The community is putting a strain on their health, on their mental health, on their psychological health, and even relationship. Like we've heard from the past reviews, that many relationships are struggling because many people are not able to cope with the stress of work or with the stress from the environment that they are in. Also, we see that career should not, when we are in a career, it should not cost us our mental health. It should not cost us our sense of self or peace. I think I want to share a story. Recently, I actually went for a job to try out something. And then at that point, the man told me it was going to be 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. But then, how was I going to keep up with that? And I had to really think things through. It was 7 a.m. Instead of 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. The workload alone was high, and it was going to make me really, really should I say refrain from who I really am, so I could not really go for it. So it's not just about earning a living. When we want to go for a career, it's not just about wanting to make an income. It is about living through what you earn. Truly, this book is powerful. So when we are setting and coping in career, we should know that coping should not be self-destructive. Yes, some people do not know how to cope. You see that certain people go into drinking habits because they feel as if they are drunk, the euphoria, the excitement they feel from the drink will overshadow the pain that they got from their boss screaming at them or for not having a very fulfilled day. So coping is not supposed to be self-destructive. So some of the ways of having healthy coping mechanisms is knowing that taking a break is necessary. Our moderator said Thursdays coping should be eating. Taking a break when necessary is a healthy way of coping. It, there's no need to feel like you're lazy because you're taking a break, because obviously the body can break down. When you overshoot your body, without any rest, you will break down. So, taking a break when necessary is a healthy way of coping. Finding joy in small wins. I think there's a way that the internet has actually channeled our mind to see that small wins do not really count. There's a way that big people celebrate awesome wins, big contracts, that you, when you get a little one, when you have little wins, you feel as if it's not enough, and then you overshoot your body, you overshoot your mind, you don't even mind that you're straining yourself, you have not slept for days. And then when your body breaks down, you see that it's hard to get it up and running again. So finding joy in small wins, even when you are not where you want to be yet, is a healthy way of coping. Cheering yourself on, telling yourself that you got this, you are not lazy, and you can do better. Even when nobody's cheering, when nobody's clapping, is an awesome way of coping rather than going into depression because you're not speaking out. Also, no matter how the workplace may bring fulfillment or despair, because like I said, not many people work in where they want to work. In this place of this world, you see people that are working in places that they don't want to be, and sometimes these people are not really even living up to what they want to do. So when we find ourselves in those places, I think taking breaks and speaking to yourself until you get to the other part is a very good way to cope, rather than taking things in our mind and not speaking out. So coping isn't just about positive thinking, it's giving yourself permission and to tell yourself that you might not have it all figured out yet while you are still holding on to hope. So one of the healthiest way of coping mechanism, as Mr. Tayo told us in the book, is the community of people that we have around us. People that will cheer you on when you want to hear it. People that will tell you that yes, you've got this, and people that you can be vulnerable with. I think the workplace does not accept vulnerability, but with the people that we have, the community that we have around us, that you can be vulnerable there. It's a way of having like the right coping mechanism for every person and for us that will be going into the work life soon. So coping in isolation will always find a way to seep out through anger, disinterest, fatigue, and even illness. So as I round up, I want to tell everyone there that you are not weak for choosing peace. So at any time that you feel that you need peace, you are not weak for choosing peace. You are not a failure for putting your well being above your paycheck. Thank you so much. And that is all from Precious Kwara State. Right? You never come up. Oh.
I'm a tech sis, I'm a tech bro, I'm grinding, I want to get the bag, I'm after the bag, please don't shalaye beside me, I want to get the money, I want to do this, I want to do that. You are doing 2 work, 3 jobs. Many people aren't thriving in their careers, they are only surviving them. They are smiling in Zoom meetings. Hey, I'm not smiling, I'm not. They are only smiling in Zoom meetings while battling imposter syndrome, receiving accolades while silently breaking down. They are chasing promotions that feels like lifelines for them rather than celebrations. How do we cope with careers that stress us too thin? Please, in the end, your career is a part of your life. It shouldn't consume your whole life. You are more than your role, your job title, or your professional achievement. And you deserve a version of success that allows you to breathe in, Thank you so much, Precious from Kwara State. Thank you so much for joining us in this book review, Coping Mechanism by Mr. Tayo Oloshunde. Is Jedidiah from Kano State. You're welcome, Jedidiah. Hi, Jedidiah.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. This is
Oh,
actually about.
sorry, John from Yobe State.
Yes, I heard you saying Jedediah. That was why I paused for some seconds. Okay. like I said, my name is Abba Kure, speaking from Yobe State. We have heard how the others reviewed on the coping mechanisms, how different people cope, and how relationship can help our coping and other aspects of our lives. But I know many people might be wondering how we have come about all these coping mechanisms, how they are formed, and all that. So I'll be taking us on chapter 4, which is coping through the generations. And this part of the book will help us understand how people over time developed their coping mechanisms and some of those things that actually shaped them. So, as explained by the writer, each generation has its own share of challenges, battles, weights, and each generation found different ways to cope. The writer of the book, Mr. Tayo, described the generations in the following ways. The first one he spoke about is the silent generations and the boomers. This is the first generation. Now, this generation are described as the foundation layers. They were taught to toughen up and to keep moving. They grew up in the shadow of war, depression, colonization, and significant societal transformation. Expressing emotion during this generation was seen as weakness. Crying, especially for men, was discouraged, and mental health was not discussed at all. Now, this generation coped, or they formed their coping mechanism by hardship. Many turned into hard work, religion, routine, and silence. It's just as if, as a result of the problems that came along with the generations, they learned to find mechanisms or ways that they cope through those challenges. And then a lot of them turned to hard work, engaging in things that actually took their mind off the burdens and the problems that came along with the generation they found themselves. Now, the next generation is the Gen X. These are also seen as the caught in between generation. Now, the Gen X are also called the middle child between the boomers and the millennials. Now, this generation grew up during a time of major transition, economic shifts, increasing divorce rates, and the birth of modern technology. They comprise of those who came home to empty houses because their parents worked long hours. Now, this generation learned independence early. They watched society transform from analog to digital to the digital era. And also, the generation were the first to question the don't talk about it culture. But even then, emotional expression wasn't always safe or accessible. They learned to cope by emotional detachment, being sarcastic, diving into work or creativity, or turning to substances in secret. For this generation, vulnerability felt like an unfamiliar territory. Now, what this means is that this generation, that's the Gen X, they found themselves in that period where society was moving from the analog to the digital. And during those eras, most parents were not there to attend to the emotional needs of their children. So as a result of that, a lot of them learned how to cope by just forming detachments, showing less emotions to things. And then that is another era when a lot of people went into taking substances for them to be able to cope with those pressures. Now, moving on, we have the millennials. These are seen as the wounded healers. This generation were raised by the Gen X or the late boomers. They were mocked for their sensitivity and entitlement. They were raised in a rapidly changing world, one foot in the analog age and the other foot in the digital age. They inherited a mixture of resilience and emotional repression. This generation bore and witnessed global recession, rising cost of living, unstable economies, and climate anxiety. They questioned the hustle culture and began to choose and set boundaries and mental health. And they also began to choose rest as a as a means of coping. Now, their coping was actually digital, introspective, and community seeking. They are often aware of their traumas, but unsure of how to fully heal them. Now, a very good feature of this millennial, that's the wounded healers, is that it comprises of people who were beginning to, let me use the word, wisen up. They were beginning to see a need for them to speak up, a need for them to actually begin to look into the problem of the pressure of stress and how to cope. And then moving on, we have the Gen Z. Sorry, I'm trying to work with time. The Gen Z. Now, these are the most online yet emotionally expressed generation. Gen Z's entered the world where internet was already a second home. They have known a world without Wi-Fi, without smartphones or social media. They have access to everything and yet faced a unique kind of emptiness within them that hyperactivity cannot actually feel. This generation is more informed, more expressive, and more vocal about mental health than any of the generations before them. They use social media platforms to talk about depression, create memes to make sense of trauma, and form online support groups that span the globe. For the Gen Zs, coping involves humor, advocacy, and visibility. They cry publicly, vent anonymously, and seek validation in comments and likes. Their coping mechanisms are often short-term, doom scrolling, venting online, and disconnecting people. As we all know, Gen Z's generation is that generation where people began to, let me say, look into their mental health very well. They created some kind of community where they can speak about the pressure, and for a lot of people that actually helped them cope. It is also this time, or the generation also actually showed people what it means to engage in mental health care, how they can care for their mental health. And here again, people learn to begin to disconnect from people who actually do not help their mental health in any way. Now, the last generation that Mr. Tayo actually spoke about is the Gen Alpha. Now, this is the youngest of all generation, and it is the generation that are still in childhood or early adolescence. They were actually born in a fully digital era where it is voice activated, plenty of screen world, and all being by the millennials or older Gen Zs, many of whom are trying to break generational cycles while they are still healing themselves. Is still forming their coping mechanisms. Their stories are still yet to be written, but even at that, we could still see some kind of patterns that are already being formed. Where mental health is already visible and it is being spoke about in a lot of places like schools, even the cartoons they watch and other things they are being exposed to. Now, the way their caregivers model emotional regulation to them is what will shape how they handle stress and anxiety and also failure. So now how this helps us is that understanding each generation and the strengths, the weaknesses, and the problems that they face during that time can actually help us to understand how each generations developed their coping mechanism. Now, the essence of this is that it will help us to develop a sense of empathy towards other generations, and we will understand better from certain generations behave in certain ways to help their coping. And also this knowledge can also help us understand how coping mechanism from each generations can actually help when the people from the Gen Zs, maybe some of the mistakes of the generations before them, looking at their strengths and adopting them, it can actually help develop a very good and healthy coping mechanisms. Just like the other reviews established earlier, it is not just about coping, because there are some coping that are actually harmful to us, but if we will be able to learn more about how to cope better, it will actually go a long way in helping us understand the better ways to cope that will benefit us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, John. Thank you so much for joining us on this book review. We sincerely appreciate you. Hello, my fellow Gen Zs in the house. Have you gotten your own bass boost? Jedediah is smiling. Don't worry, we are ready for you. So, actually, chapter 4, this chapter explored how different generations have developed unique coping mechanisms shaped by their environment, societal values, and access to emotional tools. From the silent endurance of boomers to the emotional transparency of we the Gen Zs, okay, the Gen Zs, and the emotional intelligence emerging in Gen Alpha. Each generation reflects its own survival strategies, while older generation often coped through stoicism and structure. Younger ones embrace vulnerability, digital expression, and mental health advocacy. Thank you so much once again, John. Well, we sincerely appreciate you and your contribution towards this book review. This time I will be bringing up Jedediah Oladipo from Kano State. You're welcome, my president.
All right. Good morning, everybody. I want to believe you can hear me. All
Loud and
right.
clear.
I'm Jedediah Oladipo from Kano State, and I'll be speaking basically on yes, the coping mechanism, but yet we'll be looking at the chapter 11 of the book that's talking about coping with stress. And so far, I've been following the discussions, and everybody's talking about stress. Everybody's talking about um, how to cope and all of that. And we fail to understand that you can't cope with something that you really don't understand. All right, you can't cope with something you really don't have a full understanding about. Everybody keeps talking about stress. I'm stressed. This one's stressed. Talking about the fact that yes, stress brings about depression and all of that. But have we really actually sat down to understand what stress is? That's the first thing, because if you don't understand a thing, you might not understand how best to avoid it and how best to go about it, not to even talk of how to cope with it. And one of the things that the writer was trying to do was just to address um what stress is all about. Like, and to me, I mean, I think I had a better understanding of what it is, and to a large extent I now understand, okay, I mean, what we actually call stress is, or our definition of stress, not that is not correct, but there are two ways about it, or there's a different perspective about it. And the writer was trying to say that stress is not something you can avoid. All right, there's always this mindset, especially, I love the fact that the other speaker from Yobe State tried to give, a view of the different generation. And funny enough, the Gen Z that we have now, they have this idea that there's a point to get to where, I mean, you won't be stressed. All right, there's always that mindset that, I mean, there's a point you can get to in life. They believe that maybe the rich guys, the well-to-do guys are not going through stress. But actually, the writer was just trying to say that stress is not something you can avoid. All right, stress is not something you can avoid. Stress is not something that, as long as you are still in this life, you will still have to go through one form of stress or the other. And he was also trying to give another perspective to it, in that, in as much as we view stress as something negative, all right, there's also the positive aspect of it, trying to say that, stress is not just a, how do I want to put it now, it's not just a a sense of you going through a lot, like Nigerians we say it. When you tell someone, ask someone that, how far are you doing, you tell me, I'm going through a lot. But that's not just the mentality, or that's not just that main aspect of stress. There's that positive aspect of stress that keeps you alert, that keeps you aware about what's going on around you, that keeps you I don't want to put it, that keeps you focused. I think everyone can actually relate to this, where, I mean, you are having tests, and then you have to submit your project and all of that, and then the deadline is very close. And probably on a normal day you won't have worked on that project in the space of 2-3 hours. All right, but because you have a deadline, and at that point your body is going through a lot of psychological stuff, and there's a release of adrenaline and all of that, and before you know it, you are able to, your brain works faster at that point. You begin to picking a lot of things differently. There's a lot of perspective coming, and at that point, it's because your mind at that point now is going through. He knows that he has to meet up with the deadline and all of that. So it was just trying to say that, in as much as yes, we have always viewed stress to be something negative, as it were, it was also bringing another perspective to it, in that stress is not just bad, as it were. There is the positive side of it. All right, and it was also trying to say that actually it is how best you know how to cope with it that determines whether it's going to be negative or positive. There are some people that the best way they feel they can cope with stress is to move to alcohol, or to move to smoking and all of that. And we've seen people, their best means of coping through stress is just to sit down and pick a book and read. I think I've seen people like that, where the best position or the best way to just clear their mind of the stress is just to just sit down somewhere quiet and pick a book and read. And in the process, I mean, they tend to get some things in the process of trying to cope with the stress and all of that. So what the writer was just basically trying to do was just to give another perspective to what stress is about and how to cope with it. Like Victoria was saying, that there are different ways people address stress. I mean, some people will go as far as even taking their life. I mean, they'll tell you they can't take it anymore, and before you know it, they dabble into depression, and before you know it, becomes something we are talking about, suicide and all of that. But if we are able to understand that there is that aspect of stress that is positive, and how you actually cope with it is what determines the outcome of it. And like I said, some people, it could be that maybe the best way they can cope with that stress at that particular point is just to get somewhere to lie down and sleep at that point. And to some extent, by the time they are back on, they are able to get themselves together, and they move on and all of that. So what Mr. Taya was just trying to do was just to, yes, he had been talking a lot about how best to cope, the generational aspect of the stress and all of that. But at the chapter 11, we're just trying to bring our consciousness back, in that in as much as people are talking about, let's actually focus our attention on this stress of a thing. I mean, yes, we are seeing it's stress that brings about anxiety, that brings about depression, but let's leave all of that and focus on stress. What exactly is stress? How best can we I don't want to put it, because it's our understanding of what stress is, that is how we are able to know, okay, how best to address it, and all of that. So I think I'm good. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Jedediah from Kano State. Thank you so much. Okay, I want to ask us a few questions. In fact, I want to ask us just one question. Can stress be managed by an individual? Let's drop our answers in the comment section. Can stress be managed by an individual? Definitely, stress can be managed by an individual by identifying your stressors, move your body, sleep well, manage your time wisely, and trust me, every other thing is going to fall in place. So I don't want to say I work better under pressure. They are not working better under pressure. Please. Yes, it can be managed. Thank you so much, Joseph. Yes, it can. Thank you so much, Omotayo. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much. I really appreciate each and every one of us. So, moving next, we are bringing up Blessing from Bauchi State. Blessing from Bauchi State. Thank you so much. She's going to be taking us through the chapter 9 of this book. Oh, E. You'll be taking us through. Thank you. You're welcome.
Okay, good morning. Thank you so much for having me. Good morning, everyone. I'll be taking the chapter 9 for the coping mechanism. The topic here says coping mechanism and the Nigerian system. The average Nigerian, the response you hear mostly when you ask them how they are doing is I dey manage, I'm okay. These responses are actually shallow. They are not. If you ask them deep within, you will know that something is actually wrong. I will start with what Dr. Tayo wrote. He said, living in Nigeria is both a beautiful blessing and a silent battle. It is waking up with hope and going to bed with uncertainty. It is a country full of vibrant culture, faith, talent and resilience, but also one where citizens must learn to adapt, survive and endure a system that often feels stacked against them. Further, he said, in Nigeria, coping isn't a phase, it is a lifestyle. We've seen how many Nigerians, we've come to take coping as a lifestyle. We have blended so much to the dysfunctional system in Nigeria that we not see it as something as normal. We no longer see it as something that we can move from, that's something we can pass from. We see it as normal, which is very bad. We have daily dose of habits. I mean, habits that things that we see around that are actually bad, but then we've taken it to be so part of our system, like it's a dysfunctional system that is so normal to us. Things like generators, like the prices of fuel hike, like the prices of fuel increase. We blend in so much to the price of fuel increase so much that when we hear that okay the price of fuel has increased, everybody we complain, we talk about it, but then before you know it, we all blend into it. We adapt so easily. Nigerian has the ability to be so resilient. They adapt easily to situation, which is also a very big problem that we are facing in coping. So let's move further. I'll be talking about how the psychology of survivor, which is a nice one. Psychology of survivor. The Nigerian system forces people into survival mode. Our system in this country is so much that you easily want to take things. We develop thick skin. It's as if it's automatic. Once you get to that age of taking decisions by yourself, you just see yourself developing a thick skin. You do things. You see things. We've seen our older folks live. We've seen how they struggle. We've seen the system. We see how the system failed them. We see how they struggle to survive. We see how many of them try to do things, and then because of the way the things are, we've learned to also like mimic them, or we've learned to blend in with the way they do things instead of us doing things differently. The Nigeria survival psychology of survival is usually Nigeria system forces people into survival mode, like hyper independency. Nobody is coming to save you. If you don't save yourself, nobody will save you. That hyper independence is okay to some extent. We know that nobody is coming to save you, because of a truth, you really need to motivate yourself. If you don't motivate yourself, nobody is going to motivate you. But then there's a place of support. There's a place of help. There's a place of opening up and telling people this is what I'm feeling. There's a place of coming out of your shell and actually like talking about these things, because because we are Nigerian, the Nigerian spirit in us always make it feel as if we are if you are too emotional, you are soft. If you are too emotional, if you don't talk about the things you are passing through, people will deem you as soft. They might not want to associate with you, which is very wrong. The hyper independence thing is important, because this is where we bring in love. This is where people feel loved. This is where people open up themselves, and they can actually see that yes, I have someone who can support me, even if this thing is not working for me. I have someone who can actually talk to me, and then we can find a way to come out of this shallow pit that he or she is. A destruct system, that's the psychology of survivor now. A destruct system. Sometimes we've seen the way our systems are. The hospitals we believe that will help us, the police stations that we go to that will feel it to be that when we go there we will get justice. These things fails us, and then we destroy the system, because the system has not proven, the system is so bad, the failing economy is bad, it has not proven itself to be worthy of our trust. So we suppress our emotions. I've talked about it. We suppress our emotions. This comes from due to the fact that over time you have been having this survivor mindset. You are trying to survive so much that you've carried yourself out of the fact that survivor is not well-being. You are trying to survive, yes, but then there's a thin line between well-being and survivor. So with time, if you keep trying to survive, these emotions like suppress so much that it leads to something else, like depression, like deaths, like people taking radical actions that might lead to something else in their life. Coping strategies in Nigeria, like the coping strategies they use in Nigeria, sometimes we like humor and social media. This is a very common one. Like Nigerians have a temporary way of, like, a therapy. They use social media as therapy. You go to, yeah, something goes on and there's an increase in fuel price. They go to social media, you talk about it, people laugh about it. Like, we laugh through our pain, we laugh through our emotions, we laugh through the things that are going. Look deep and talk about these things, because we have grown, we have emerged ourselves in situation whereby we can easily blend to things. So even if we are laughing through our pain, even if we are pushing, this thing is here, but then we're not really talking about those things. We are trying to look for something else to suppress that thing that is going on in our lives, is going on in the country, just so that we can move away from it, which is also a way that, which is something that is killing our country. Ozu culture, the Ozu culture here is Ozu. That is just it. We need to, like, people try to get different streams of income because the economy is failing. Because if you stay in one source of income, you might see yourself going into poverty. You might see yourself not living that life if you imagine yourself. So people, as much as they can, they try to, like, get different source of income so much that they can live to the standard of the economy, because the economy is so bad that if they don't make themselves in different things, they will see themselves failing their family, or even failing their own self. The cost of coping in Nigeria, coping isn't free. It costs our mental health. As much as we try to talk about coping is very costly. It costs you your mental health, it costs you your peace, it costs you sometimes the ability to actually sit down in a spot and think about some certain things. It costs you so much that you want to, like, just say, let me stay and let this thing happen. Let it just happen. Sometimes our dreams are deferred because we are trying to cope. We leave what we are supposed to pursue. We tend to, like, delve into other things because we are trying to be in that survival mode. We are trying to survive. Every now and then we are trying to survive. Then we leave the course of what our dream it truly is into, so that we can meet up with the standard and be able to take care of ourselves or take care of our family as is supposed. I will conclude by saying, I will go further by saying, what can be done. There are things that we can do some things concerning this, like a healing towards this coping mechanism. Mental health advocacy. We are youth. There are things we can talk to people about, how we should not settle for coping, but we should look beyond. Coping is okay, it is admirable, but we should look beyond just staying in that realm of trying to blend into to what the society has, to what Nigerian system has turned us to what the society has made us to. We should look beyond. We should advocate people on how they can look beyond the current situation and try to bring in things that will help them to live more. Educate the youth, teach emotional intelligence. Yes, emotional intelligence is very critical. I mean, if emotional intelligence is one thing that helps us to, it stabilize you. If you're not emotionally intelligent, it can cause you to take decisions, radical decisions that might affect you later in life. A safe space. Yes, we should build a safe, churches, religions, bodies, mosque should build, organizations should build a safe place where people can come and then they will sit down, they will talk about these things. People will talk about how their emotions are and how they can actually live through many things. I will round up because I perceive my time is about to. I will round up by saying that Nigerian spirit is admirable. This chapter calls for collective healing, mental health awareness, civic engagement, and national shade away from normalizing dysfunctional. Like this part now is about we taking our mind away from the normalizing the dysfunctional system in Nigeria, but actually saying that we can that we can cope, but then we can look beyond just coping. That we should not settle for coping. We should look beyond because we deserve more, we deserve better. We should not settle for less. Settling it should lead us to ask more and to build future where healing, dignifies and hope are possible. We can achieve many things if we don't stay on that, if we don't stay in that loophole of this is Nigeria. Let's just go with the flow. This is Nigeria. We can normalize whatever is happening. Let's just blend in. We can actually educate people and tell them we can come out of this financial system. You can help our next generation to see that they can achieve more if they do things are fine. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Gina Blessing from Bauchi State.
Thank you so much, Blessing from Bauchi State. Blessing said a whole lot. A whole lot. And thanks for giving us Nigerians back to back as if they are not in Nigeria. Thank you so much, Blessing. We really appreciate you and your contribution towards this book review. Resilience is not the goal, restoration. May we find the courage to not just survive Nigeria, but to transform it. Thank you so much once again, Blessing. Bye. So right now, I'll be bringing up stage Daniel from Benue State. Daniel from Benue State. You'll be reviewing Coping Mechanism, Chapter 3. You're welcome, Daniel.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, but can you move closer to your device?
Okay, thank you very much. Coping mechanisms. This is really a very wonderful piece. It's a masterwork, I must confess. Going through it, it has actually opened my eye to a lot of things. And I think it's quite advisable that every youth in this generation should go through it and learn a lot from it. Okay, I'll be reviewing the chapter 3, which says, How are you coping? How are you coping? Wow, this question is predominant in our generation today. Most times you just meet someone and you'll be asked, How are you coping? And the general answer we get is usually, I'm fine, I'm managing, I'm trying, I'm coping, I'm surviving. But then this book has made me understand that it is not just about what you're saying or how you just what you want to present to the public, but the truth beneath it. What is actually the truth? Are you actually coping? Sometimes you say I'm fine. Sometimes that I'm fine or I'm coping actually means that I am holding on to a thread and I'm hoping that no one notices it or stuff like that. Now, you see, this book, I really learned something there. It means that in that I'm coping, you just need to be polite to yourself because I came to discover that coping is not weakness. We see that when we try to tell the truth, maybe look at the things I'm passing through or look at how it is, it feels that I'm actually displaying a form of weakness. We live in a world that celebrates strength and frown at struggles. When you see someone who is struggling, it looks like the person is a weakling into society. But then I've come to learn that coping through this book, coping is not weakness. It is actually what is known as survival. You see, it shows how we keep showing up when the ground beneath us feels unstable. Sometimes coping is noble and is admirable. You see, it's like a therapy, a prayer, a safe care. Most times, coping can be messy, quite all right, but then it encompasses a lot of things, such as staying in bed longer, waking up late, walking to the night into the midnight, even smiling when your heart is breaking, or stuff like that. But then that's okay. Yes, because coping is not about being perfect. It is about staying afloat when your life is trying to pull you down. When the society is trying to bring you down, to draw you down, maybe due to the happenings around, due to what you are going through at your place of work, family pressures coming in here and there, through the doors, through the windows, you are trying as much as possible to stay afloat so that you will not be drawn by the situations of life. This book actually taught me that coping is not about having it all. It is about holding on, showing up, and choosing to heal. one breath at a time. And I believe that with all my heart, sincerely. I sincerely believe that it's not all about having it all together, but it is about what? Showing up. You see, if you look at most times you just look at your life, at the things that happens, at the things that you've passed through, you've been through, and you just pause for a minute or two and you ask yourself, how did I even go through all this? How did I get by all these issues, all these situations of life that might have occurred in one way or the other? The fact that you are standing and you're still breathing, still trying things out, it only means one thing. It shows that you've proved a level of resilience. And survival doesn't have to be pretty. This is what I draw from this book. It doesn't have to be pretty to matter. The scars you carry are just a sign of failure. The scars you carry are not signs of failure, rather, but they are evidence that you lived through something. You lived through situation. You lived through conditions of life which has tried to pull you down, but they do what? They failed due to how resilient you have become. Just most times, I think most times we just need to stand and ask ourselves the hard questions. Like, I want to just challenge yourself with few questions. Ask yourself, have I been silencing myself just to avoid conflict? Am I distracting myself so that I don't have to feel what hurts? Most times you see situations might come. You don't really want to mention it. You don't really want to call the problem by the name. You don't want to you don't want to give it a name. You just keep trying to make up excuses on not trying to call it by its name. You feel to lose touch with things that makes you happy just to be able to avoid to be able to avoid those situations. See, sometimes the hardest part about coping is being honest to ourselves. That's what coping is all about. You have to learn to be honest to yourself. You think most times we think that if we don't name the pain, if we don't name the situation that is coming to our side, if we don't name the things that we are going through, it will not hurt us. But truth be told, through this book, I've been able to recognize that what you don't define will continue to control you. Yes, what you don't define will continue to control you. There's difference between coping and healing, which also I draw from this book. Say that coping is like the raft that keeps you afloat in deep waters, while healing is the journey across the shore. Now you are swimming now. There's a raft. You are with a particular raft, maybe a life jacket or something of that nature that keeps you afloat on that river. That's what coping is all about. You have to keep afloat while you are heading to the shore. Healing can be referred to as that shore, that end that you're looking for. While coping is that gentle one at a time step you're taking to get out of that situation. That's what coping is all about. Now remember, everyone you meet have one thing or the other they are dealing with. So coping, for you to cope with yourself, you also need to be what? Gentle with yourself and with people you meet around. You don't need to just
Thank you.
be antagonist at all. You don't really need to be antagonist at all time. I think I've drawn that one most important tool is in coping is self-compassion. You don't have to be harsh on yourself. You are not doing it for anybody. You just have to keep doing better. Then you are doing what you're doing, what you know you can do. You do it with a clear heart and a clear conscience. And that will help us to cope and move along. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Daniel from Yobe State. From Benue State, sorry. Thank you so much, Daniel. We sincerely appreciate you and your contributions to this book review. Thank you so much. Oluwamolamikun Omoya from the comment section, I could see you've been following back to back, back to back. Thank you so much, Raphael, Adenike, Karimot, Oluwa Toromi, Toromo. I can see you all. Divine, I can see you. Afolayan Bolade Joanna, I can see you. Abubakar Salimot, I can see you. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us on this book review. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really appreciate our presence. Okay, for those of us in the house, please, if you have, let's just drop the key nuggets we got from today's book review in the comment section. I'll be reading them out with our names. Tioluwalope Adeleke. Can suppression lead to depression? Who is going to answer that? Can suppression lead to depression? Precious
Yeah.
Tioluwalope Adeleke. Can suppression lead to depression?
So am I to answer that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, can
Please let's drop
suppression
our
lead to the
questions. Sorry, please. Let's drop
all
our
right.
questions and the nuggets we get in the comment section. I'll be reading them out first. Thank you. Can I have the floor, sir?
Good morning everyone. Can suppression lead to depression? I would say yes. Suppression in the sense of how do I explain suppression now? Suppression is you are not coming into full terms with how you feel. Suppression could mean you are looking for several activities to cover up how exactly you feel. And what could happen is that eventually, you see, the brain is wired in such a way that when it is not allowed to thrive how it is supposed to be, then depression can actually set in. So I think that suppression, if it stays for long, could actually lead to depression. Do you understand? If if you are suppressed for too long, it could actually lead to depression because depression is a mental state. Suppression is also a mental state. It is a way by which we try to keep our emotions in check to make it feel like we are strong. But the truth is that when it happens for too long, you could get depressed as a person. Yes.
All right.
I
Thank you
hope
so
you
much, Precious. So thank you so much, Precious. So I'll be reading out some of the responses from our other colleagues. Suppression can lead to depression big time. Trying to suppress the pain, your emotions. It's a lot. That's from Chisom Daniel. Gamaliel said, I will say yes. Cause suppressing is just you lying to yourself that it isn't there. Where is your mind when your mind knows that it's there? There will be a conflict between your mind, and trust me, you might break down. That's from Gamaliel. Toromo said, sometimes crying is the beginning of healing. Suppressing your emotions can lead to depressions. Let it out and see the magic. Aww. Okay. Chisom Daniel said, okay, one of his nuggets, he said, we need to create a safe space for people to enjoy. Feel free and share their pains. Oluwa Oluwamolamikun Omoya said, my key takeaway, coping should not be your destination. It should be on your way to healing and moving on. Joseph, he said, yes, suppression of emotions, including negative ones like sadness, anger, or fear, can significantly contribute to depression. Omotayo Oyinade said, nuggets, when coping with stress, ensure not to do anything that will be detrimental to your health. Also, you are not a failure for choosing your well-being over your paycheck. Thank you so much, Omotayo Oyinade. Emmanuel said it can also lead to emotional withdrawal. So there's quite a lot of things here. And right now, I'll be bringing up Mr. Bukumi Abiodun, Mind the Gap, so that I can wrap up this session for us. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. I really appreciate you all.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. And I mean, I have no other thing to say other than to appreciate every one of us who have shown commitment to this session today. And this book, it's a lot in terms of what we really need today. It speaks so much volume about how we adapt. We are, as a human being, we either want to tilt towards pleasure, or want to pull away from pain. So how we able to adapt to our world today, it speaks so volume. This book really speaks so volume of it, and that's why for me, I want to appreciate all the team behind the scene to make this happen, to share your thoughts, your experience, and some insights into what the book actually enveloped. Thank you so much, the National President Victoria Alabi, for holding forth and also to be able to coordinate all the representatives from each state. Thank you all. Shout out to everyone in the CDS across the states. Shout out to everyone. I can't number it all, I know. And to me, I'm really blessed to actually have us, to be able to discuss and then to be able to learn from this book. This book is open for everyone, and we are going to be working on it to improve on it to make sure that it's ready, available, start from us as youth and also to our community. So welcome to Mind the Gap, and welcome to this coping mechanism book review. You're all invited to actually, to seek for this book. Let's look forward to this book so that we can be, learn from it. Have a group that you are going to also review this together and share it to your world. Take this down to learners in your community too, because one thing about this is everybody have one or two things you are coping with. Okay, I have mine, you have yours. So share this. This will be a blessing to one or two people around you and around your world. And one thing is that is how to show leadership. That's how to show that you are against all odds. You're actually pushing through to see that you're not alone who is going to thrive in this community, in this world. You're also making sure that other people like you also thrive. And so for me, I'm really blessed. And to shout out to everyone across the nation, from those who are serving and those who are joining us, who are subscribers on this channel. Shout out to you. If you are yet to subscribe, please do well to subscribe to the channel. And one of those things I will also say is that please make this is your own story. Join your service here. Make the most of it by making a story about it. Not that you partook from this coping mechanism book review. Write it on your social media post. Follow, tag Mind the Gap, tag the author of the book, and let's build a community. Over time, this will speak volume for you. When even across your journey in the next few years. So one thing I've seen a lot of that happening, and one of those things I always say is you are not alone. We are not alone in this journey. So as you are looking up to the author, also look down to those who are coming up to share this knowledge with them. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. So we are just going to draw the curtain here. And also shout out also to the national president, the national coordinator for the CDS, in the person of Odetayo Mayowa, and also to the author, who also the executive director of MindtheGap. Shout out to us, to him also, and the entire team of MindtheGap, and to our NYSC state coordinators, schedule officers. Shout out to you. Thank you for making this happen. And please, I hope we all feel our attendance. Please, let's do well to do so. All right, so amazing. So another message has been dropped. Please, let's do well to join the WhatsApp group. We are going to pin this on the call so that it can be for us, so that we can tap into it. It's so necessary that we actually form a community who discuss this book. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you all. We are blessed to actually have you, and I will say next month you and I will be here by God's grace to take this. I also have Mayowa on the call, who will also be speaking before we wrap up. Thank you. All right. Over to you, Mayowa.
All right, thank you, everyone, and Mr. Bukumi, God bless you. Thank you so much for your relentless efforts, and I want to say a big thank you to everyone who has joined in. And funny enough, the executive director, Mr. Tayo Oloshide, has said that everyone who stayed to the end of this program, we are collecting your data, we're collecting your name, and we have something for you. And I think that deserves a round of applause. Please, can we celebrate the executive director of MindtheGap and the founder of MindtheGap and also the author of Coping Mechanism. He has something for everyone who has stayed to the end of the program. And also, officially, everyone who has stayed to the end of this national CDS meeting is now in a community of coping mechanism community in Nigeria, in your host community and wherever you're found. We're going to be reaching out to you as long as we have your data. So please, I want to encourage us that this is not just a book, it's a movement. This is not just a book, it is a movement. We want all of us to take this to our communities, our host communities, our PPA, wherever we find ourselves, to start letting others know that there is a light outside of the tunnel. So we have to be an advocate to let them know that it is not just about you copy. It is not just about the environment, but you can actually make a difference with the words you say, how you say, and how you actually make yourself walk around all of this. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to say a big thank you to everyone who has made our time to be here. It's indeed a pleasure to have you all. And we say congratulations and well done. Today, should I say the moderator for today, we want to say a big thank you to you for taking us on this ride and very smooth ride. And to all of the participants in all of the states, I hope you all have gotten something out of this. We're going to make the link available for everyone to actually go download this book and also check for it on App Store, Play Store, and every other place you can actually get the book. I believe the book will not be going for a long fee, but it might be even free. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's keep our fingers crossed. And also, if you're not following us on MindtheGap, you're not following us on our social media platform, and you're not connected to this YouTube channel, you have not subscribed, please do that, because we're going to be having so much series that are going to be coming up our way. Without further ado, I want to say once again, thank you so much, everyone who has made our time to be here. God bless you, and see you next month for our national CDS meeting, which is going to definitely be very more interesting than what we do. Thank you. And over to the moderator today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bukumi and Mr. Mayowa. Esteemed call members and guests, thank you for making it to the National CDS webinar. Coping mechanism was truly impactful. We explored the insights Mr. Tayo Oloshide has kept in this book. So please, I want to urge us all core members, DLCs, please, let's try as much as possible to mark our attendance, our names, our details, please. And let's keep the momentum going. Thank you so much and stay inspired. Bye.